Good afternoon. Happy Labor Day, everybody. I'm Mike Naso from the IPR YouTube Tropical Update page with the latest on, as I said yesterday, what would be considered the Great Labor Day Storm of 2019, back before we started naming them, Hurricane Dorian. Here's the latest visible satellite loop, and Dorian obviously has stalled pretty much, and it's wobbling right over Grand Bahama Island. It's a very, very dangerous high-end Category 4 hurricane. It went, of course, right across Abaco Island and then made landfall on Grand Bahama and has barely moved over the last 12 hours. And you can see there is the eye, and it's just now to the north, Freeport down here, and there's the Florida coastline. A very, very powerful hurricane. Here's the latest 1 p.m. special update by the National Hurricane Center. The eye of Dorian wobbling. That's the words that the Hurricane Center uses. Wobbling near Grand Bahama Island. This is a life-threatening situation. Residents on Grand Bahama should not leave their shelter when the eye passes over, as winds will rapidly increase on the other side of the eye. And residents in the Abaco should continue to stay in their shelter until those conditions subside later today. Of course, the hazards include wind gusts possibly as high as 190 miles an hour, and devastating storm surge 18 to 23 feet. We've seen a lot of video coming in from these islands of very, very high surge, of course with higher destructive waves on top of that, and these hazards will continue over Grand Bahama Island during most of the day, causing extreme destruction on that island. So again, as of 1 p.m., Dorian was at 26.8 north, 78.4 west. That's 25 miles northeast of Freeport and about 105 miles east of West Palm Beach. Winds still 155 miles an hour, perched right on the threshold of Category 4 and 5, moving west-northwest at 1 miles an hour. So it's still barely moving west with that slight northwest component. 922 millibars, that's the pressure Andrew had when he came into South Florida. Look at this radar loop out of Miami. This thing has not moved. Look at this. This radar loop is hours and hours of this hurricane. Look at it, just stays right there, pounding, 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 still pounding, and it's still sitting right there north of Grand Bahama. Unbelievable. I hate to see the images we're going to see once we get some pictures of what has gone on that island over the last 12 hours, to say nothing of what happened on Abaco when it was at peak intensity of 180, 185 miles an hour. Again, you can see the motion here. It's starting that drift off towards the west-northwest that we've been anticipating based on the model guidance, and we will see that movement eventually start later on today. Here's the progression of the models. You can see that's where they were, here, here, and now even tighter right against the Florida coastline, which is why those hurricane warnings are now extended northward. And of course, we have evacuations along the Georgia, South Carolina coastlines, areas of Myrtle Beach. Listen to your local officials for what evacuation zones you live in, because again, it cannot yet be ruled out that the hurricane can't perhaps cross the coast and make a landfall somewhere here on the southeast. It's just too severe a hurricane to not take that chance. Of course, it could also make landfall up here in the areas of North Carolina, say by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so if you live on the Outer Banks, Hatteras, Wilmington, areas of Morehead City, you guys need to be on the alert. Cape Fear, if you got boats that need to be taken care of, if you've got any of those things that you wait till the last minute, don't wait till the last minute. Just have them ready in case Dorian does make landfall. And even if it doesn't, you're going to have high seas and a lot of heavy rain as the hurricane will accelerate, and it's getting larger in size. You can see that even better. Look at how big this hurricane's become. By the way, this is still not nearly as large as, say, Hurricane Floyd, but it's got dynamic outflow. Look at the ventilation around the hurricane in all directions. I'm not really seeing any signs of wind shear. Thank goodness that this jet stream came into play to weaken the ridge to the north. Because if it did not, then Dorian would have never slowed down. He would have continued moving straight west, and West Palm Beach would have had a catastrophic Category 5 landfall. So I don't know if the people in Florida realize just how lucky they are right now. And it's still not over by any means, because this eye is still wobbling dangerously close to the coastline over the next 24 to 36 hours. Very, very powerful hurricane. Here's a throwback picture from 2008, 11 years ago. That's myself, second from left, with the late, great Dr. William Gray. Mike Watkins, which he's been doing updates as well, on the right. And, of course, Dr. Phil Klotzbach on the far left. And Phil Klotzbach is now the lead forecaster for Colorado State University. He issues the hurricane forecast, and he's been keeping tabs on storms from the past that have hit Florida as Category 4 and 5 hurricanes. Now, we had one 100 years ago near the Keys at 150 miles an hour. The Great Miami Hurricane of 26, Lake Okeechobee, thousands killed in 28. Of course, the 35 Labor Day Hurricane, that storm had the same intensity, 185 miles an hour, that Dorian had when Dorian struck Abaco yesterday. And you can see we had one in Homestead in 45, Fort Lauderdale in 47, one in 48, one in 49. Once you get to King in 1950, they stop. And we had Donna hit Florida as a Category 4 in 1960, and literally Andrew, Charlie, Irma, and Michael. So to be honest with you, we had so many storms between the 20s and the 50s right here, and then really in the last 50 years we've only had 5 storms. So to be honest with you guys in Florida, you've been kind of lucky. You can see many, many more hurricanes than you've seen, and that's why you always have to remain on the alert and be thankful if Dorian doesn't make landfall, because it's such a severe storm. Again, I did want to note that we'll be watching Dorian as he, of course, makes his move right up the eastern seaboard over the next couple of days, but we do have other features. There's an area of disturbed weather in the Gulf that's going to head towards Mexico. There's an area of disturbed weather to the east of Dorian that should head out. Both have a medium chance for development. There's a tropical wave over the eastern Atlantic that's very likely to develop, but should remain more out to sea. And then there's probably the biggest concern after Dorian is another wave that's going to move off, this yellow low chance for development. But in the next couple of days, as that moves off towards the west, we could see development. So remember, hurricane season 2019 is in full swing with a very powerful Category 5 impact on the Bahamas with Dorian, and it is not over. I'm Mike Naso, and I'll continue to give updates over the next 24, 36, 48 hours as this very powerful Category 4 hurricane leaves Grand Bahama Island on track for a very close approach to the U.S. coast over the next couple of days.